GoPro.
Yep.
Don't forget a picture of my boat back there, the new one. Hey, I'm Larry Spencer with the St. Clair County Dive Team. Today we're going to go out and practice deep dive rescue patterns on one of the wrecks in our Great Lakes.
As the dive boat Simpson heads out under the two blue water bridges, we will be entering Lake Huron. We'll have 5-6 miles to get to the Charles Price, a shipwreck that sank in 1913 during the Great Storm.
Yeah, I don't think it's 36 feet wide.
Now that we're tied up to the mooring buoy, divers start prepping their gear and tenders start prepping the communications lines and other equipment required for a safe dive. Diving on the dive team requires 2 safety divers ready, and we are almost always tethered on a communications line to communicate with the surface. Charles Price was a steel-hulled ship lost on Lake Huron during the storm of November 9, 1913. 28 people died on this wreck. The Charles Price was found on November 10, 1913, with her bow above water and her stern dipping below. Because of her disposition, the ship's length could not be measured to make a positive identification of the vessel. The wreck was initially assumed to be the SS Regina. The vessel was eventually identified as the Charles S. Price before she sank November 17th. The salvage rights to the Charles S. Price were sold to the Great Lakes Towing and Wrecking Company. In the summer of 1916, salvage of the wreck was attempted. Divers cut a hole in the side of the aft hull. The hole allowed divers to enter the wreck. They attempted to seal breaks in the hull and built bulkheads so that the wreck could be floated. However, salvaging the wreck was eventually considered too costly to be worth the expense, and the Great Lakes Towing and Wrecking Company abandoned attempts to raise her. Salvage rights were eventually sold to the American Salvage Company, but they too were unable to salvage this wreck. As we drop down the mooring line, it is tied to where the rudder post would have been. You can see the way the ship was designed with the rudder sticking where it would have been behind the propeller. This propeller is huge. This ship was 504 feet, and she was only about 3 years old when she sank. I believe it was built in 1910. Quite an impressive sight underwater. Surprising how large they were able to build a ship back at the turn of that century. With me in front of the propeller, it gives you a good perspective on how large that propeller actually is. As we move forward from the stern, you'll see how torn up this wreck is. While it was obviously initially intact on the surface, it has literally ripped itself apart over the last 100 years laying on the lake bottom. It's a mangled mass of ripped metal forward of this stern section that is almost like a maze. If you go all the way to the bow appears to be a pyramid just at the end of this mass of twisted metal. This must have been one of the holes a diver cut to get inside to try to patch her up and build those bulkheads to refloat. It is tight quarters in there.
It's terrible. It's all ripped apart.
Muffled talking you're hearing in the background is actually the two divers and tender talking over our wired comm. Wired comms could be quite a mess in a situation like this as far as getting a diver tangled, but our tender did a super job on keeping the lines just tight enough to have them stay above any wreckage and yet not restrict our movement. It was nice doing this dive with a dive buddy. Usually on the dive team, we have two safety divers and a solo tethered diver doing any searching or work. Also to note, being mid-September, this was a very comfortable dive. The bottom was about 66 feet, and the water temperature right to the bottom was 66 degrees. As you can see, I'm just wearing some cotton gloves. There was no insulation needed. I could have worn a much thinner wetsuit on this dive, but I wasn't sure it would be that warm all the way to the bottom. So remember the reports. This ship was floating upside down after the storm. So she was intact. After being on the bottom 100 years, you can see how ripped apart it is. I have to believe it was basically ripped apart by its own weight and corrosion over the last 100 years. Filming this dive was done by mounting GoPro cameras to our face masks. Now, the problem with that is you don't get a nice, steady camera view because obviously we're looking around making sure we're not going to get tangled, and that creates a lot of camera movement that is less than ideal. But it is a way to keep our hands free and have a much higher level of safety while we are filming. Right at the stern, it would appear as though the weight of the ship has just taken the fantail and almost turned it inside out. It's still there, but it's bent the wrong way. On a little bit deeper dive like this, we have to be very careful ascending to the surface, that we keep our speed slow. Our maximum speed of ascent should be no more than 30 feet per minute. That's not very fast, but it does help prevent decompression sickness and embolisms and all the other bad things that can happen to a diver on a deeper dive. We'll also be doing a 3-minute safety stop before we hit the surface. Simpson is our only dive boat with propellers. Our other dive boats have jet propulsion, so it keeps the divers safe from any risk of getting caught in a propeller. Back on board, our next set of divers will get prepped and ready to jump in and finish our searching. We did 2 sets of 2 divers and 1 set of 3 divers on this particular day. Everything went smoothly and our equipment held up well.
What'd you see down there, Scott?
Lights on, Scott.
A lot of zebra mussels.
Yep.
Heading back in off the lake to Port Huron, we talked about the things we saw, the things that went perfectly, the things we could have done better. We always try to do a debriefing so we can improve on what happened the next time we need to do a similar dive. Once again, we're passing under the Blue Water bridges as we head downriver to Black River where we moor the Simpson.